Yo, what's up, guys? Pretty interesting one today. Full free-to-play R5 team of 22 seconds. Thanks for Kap for lending me his account to showcase this team. It is very similar to the team that I do run myself. However, these are all of the free-to-play options in there, which are slightly different. So he did tell me that one rune from this unit... Oh, no, wait, this unit is runed. Everything should be runed then. So let's first look at the run and then let's see how it goes. Let me also check in there during that run if everything is runed as properly, because he said that maybe some runes are going on a siege defense unit or something like that. Maybe some will rune out there. So let me just quickly go through the runes. Does all look runed? All look runed. All look runed. Everything seems to be runed. Oh, this thing is missing one rune. Ah, that's the one that's probably missing the rune, which is on the chilling. So let me switch that in just a second, because that might make the run fail. It still did succeed. So let's actually look at it afterwards, like how fast that is. So even if it fails, or even if the run is not super probably runs 22 seconds, full free to play. So, oh, well, he had a lot of those already. So that will rune is probably the will rune that came from this one. So let's switch that on real quick. That probably also makes more sense for the tuning. So what is this team all about? Well, the team is all about your Bale bringing... This team is all about landing armor breaks and brandings from the team left and right. There's a lot of options for armor breaks and brandings. Left side brander is, of course, the Ken. Right side, you do have these two units that also have a skill 1 for a brand. Plus, you also have the Orang on the left side that is also for a brand. So there's a lot of brand potential going on. It could take a little bit longer if you don't land that brand. But the main idea is, normally we do use that Brandia to make the boss to 50% HP, and then the Bale will clean up after. But in this case, if you don't have a Brandia, you have to use a Crow. Crow is definitely the best option. Also, in my case, I use a Deborah. But you can also just simply use a Miriam. It's the same idea. So let's look at each individual team, showcase what they're doing, how it works, how fast it is. And then after that, we're going to look at the runes as well. So first team, the only thing that is moving, well, we do see that there's a bunch of buffs or debuffs going right away to the boss. And that is because there's a lot of units on the side that die. And because they die or get hit, they get debuffs. The main reason you want to do that is because you get a higher chance, or actually a perfect AI chance. So these units will always go for the right skill the moment that there's enough debuffs on the boss. So the Crow will always go for a skill 3 and therefore also land a brand. The Ken will always go for a skill 3 and therefore also land its brand. So those are the main two things that you want to be aiming for, that you always guaranteed have that brand, because of things just simply dying. Well, the run goes that fast, so it's hard to showcase what's happening. So in this case, we do get hit. This thing dies, gives a debuff. Colleen moves, only Colleen moves, and then right after the Colleen, we have that scar going in from that Crow. I'm not 100% sure if you need a Crow on a skin, or it would be worse on a skin. I do think he doesn't have Penguin Colleen. With the Brandia, you do need to have Penguin Colleen. In this case, maybe not. So in this case, we did miss the brand, but if you miss the brand, then your side team should be still strong enough to clean that up. In this case, I think he's lacking a little bit of shield runes on the side teams to clean that up, but as long as these two survive, they still kind of clean up. But the stronger your side teams are for surviving, the better is for cleanup. Also, he's using, in this case, let's look at the right team first. He's using slightly different units right there than I do, because it has to be free to play, and I'm using a unit that is a Chami, which is the, or Charmy, whatever the name is, which is the Nine-Tailed Fox on light, which I do think is better than Ursa. I think the dark one would also be better than Ursa, but Ursa is the only full free-to-play unit of those, because the other ones are the light and dark. So as you can see over here on the right side, we just have Prilia moving. I'm not entirely sure what his team up is. Okay, the team up comes right after that, so that is the main idea. So you have the Ikaru team up with the other units, and with that team up, you provide more armor breaks, you provide more branding. And then just before the jump, I think it is only Prilia moving on that right team. Let's see if that is the case. Okay, out of crystals. You can sort out those rewards later. We have enough of those. So on the right team, we have 2 units that instantly do die. Yep, that's fine. Then we have just you moving, and then we have the Phantom Thief, or we have Phantom Light, what's it called? Nine-Tailed Fox is moving. So after those 2 moves, then afterwards you have the Ikaru move, and then the Ikaru right away after the jump provides the team up with all of those units. Good chance for armor breaks, good chance for everything. And that's just the main way how you want to do it. So let's then also look at the left team. And then afterwards, we're going to look at the runes and also the speed tuning of those kind of things. But let's see what that left team is exactly all about. Left team, we once again have one unit that goes in there for just dying. Well, actually 2 units. We have going in for a armor break, the Lauren. And then we right away have the Ken going in for skill 3. And after that skill 3, he does have a chance to do skill 2 if he's if he moves early enough. But if he does S2, it's totally fine. He also dies. That is the main thing. You want that unit to die. And then afterwards, you have a team up of a Tark, which just teams up with 2. But those 2 are totally fine because there's only 2 units left. And then with that team up, you have Lauren armor break once again. And Arang once again chance for branding. So that is just the main thing. It's just all about side teams putting all of the debuffs. And the main team just dealing all of the damage. So let me put the speed thing in here so you can also look at the exact speeds. So the main thing is on the main team. Let's start off with the main team. We have first Colleen moving first. It has to be on will. That is important. This Colleen is also on a specific HP that she would always do her skill. Even if something else is not like full HP. I think that this one, he does have an Ifrit level 1. So I think in his case, he doesn't necessarily need that. Needs to be will as well. Otherwise, the passive might be Oblivion. If you do have a Thessarian that's on a higher level, then you need to have this Colleen on a very specific HP where it would always just trigger from itself otherwise too. Well, this unit is just there simply to die. The moment it does die, it gives the HP recovery block to the enemy, and that's just a debuff. That's just the main thing you want to do that on. Therefore, also need will runes on that. You, of course, have will runes on the Miriam, but Miriam is not really supposed to move in the first place. Then the first one to move in this is going to be the Crow. Crow has to be just good damage. Attack increasing effect is definitely a good one. Crit damage 3, attack increasing effect, I would recommend it. Since Crow is the first one to move and first one to do damage, I would recommend going a crit damage max on Crow. And if you're looking the other artifacts of Bale, this should be a crit damage low. He does do the crit damage low over here. Combination of crit damage low with a attack increasing effect are the best artifacts for a Bale, and he also has the crit damage low over here. Not the highest of rolls. Could be a bit higher because this is just a double roll. It is nearly a max double roll though, but it's just one line that's really useful because additional damage from attack doesn't really add too much in this. So that is how those units are looking like. Also, I think these stats are relatively doable to get for most people if you have been playing for a while at least. So then looking at the right team, we first have that Trillia moving. Brandia, I would also recommend crit damage as max because she's moving like all the way early. Everything could be kind of crit damage max. He doesn't have any shield sets. I'm using this team where I also do have some shield sets. And because of shield sets, this team can kind of survive a little bit longer if things go wrong and you don't get your brand in. So that is something that you have to keep in mind. The Ursa is a nice one because it also has a multi-hit for a skill 1 and a chance to get a branding in. If you do have the light version of the Nine-Tailed Fox, I would recommend to put the light version of the Nine-Tailed Fox over here. If you have the dark version but not the dark, I would put the dark in here. But if you don't have neither, then I would go for Ursa. Also for talking replacements, if you have a Brandia, put Brandia on the Crow slot. If you have a Deborah, put Deborah on the Miriam slot. Those are the only things that I would recommend to change. And then the Ursa, I would recommend to put Chami in there. And then besides that, it's pretty much exactly the same as my team. I'm not using this thing though, but I'm not 100% sure. This is also an attack power. I would have to check my team, which personally I'm using a different unit for this, but this unit does it just as well. So you might as well just give this thing a try. I would have to check which one I'm using. I'm starting my power right now because I actually have no clue what I'm using in this slot. And then of course we have the Lich that is also there for the slow in this case. Lich has to be willed. This thing doesn't have to be willed because it always starts off in the stone stage. This thing apparently doesn't have to be willed because I think it always goes right away for the stone stage, so it always gets hit, so Oblivion doesn't matter. If the Oblivion would matter for the passive, then you would have to put will on it, but apparently it doesn't. Team on the left, we have the Lauren moving first, of course, also will. Then we have the Ken moving. Ken is also doing a good amount of damage on the boss. Also, crit damage max would be the highest one that would be useful on it. Attack increasing, no, attack increasing does not work because you don't have attack buff. So yeah, it would be a crit damage max. That would be most interesting, crit damage max and crit damage 3. This thing also needs to be will. Once again, it gives the buff block to the enemy if it's being hit. So that's good over there. Then we also have the Family that just dies, so triple fight. And then we have first the Tark moving. Tark is just there for the team up. Doesn't really need any good doesn't really need good damage in the first place, doesn't really do too much damage at all. But it's mainly that they also do have to survive, whereas the Ken would have to survive the first hit, but never the second hit. So that one has to be low HP. And then we have the Orang, which does do a good amount of damage, and that's also recommended to put a little bit more damage on. Also in this case, since it's hitting all the way at the end, I would go for crit damage low. Crit damage low is definitely the best thing that you can play around with to make these things work. So while seeing a few more runs, I'm actually starting on my second phone, checking what I am using instead of the Gargoyle, because I'm using something else for attack break that also has like a passive of right away using the attack break, but I can't really remember what. But yeah, as you can see, it's very very safe. It works probably most of the time. If you put a little bit more shield sets on the side teams, then they can survive even if you don't get the branding, and then they need to bruiser it out just a little bit longer. So for safety reasons, it is nice to have one or two shield sets on those side teams. But it is also a lot easier if you do have that Brandia. It just does a lot more damage than a Crow. If you do have that Deborah, it makes all of your units do a lot more damage. So for that reason, it just does do a little bit more if you have those units. But without, it is still possible. So let me see on my account, what am I using instead of that? No, actually, fun fact, I'm not using that at all. No, I'm actually using 3 units. So the Gargoyle is actually an extra safety net to make it better. Oh, that's actually not bad, because I'm using on the right team instead of the Gargoyle, I'm using a Rogue for another team up. It still works, it's not bad, but this is probably easier to rune because, this is just easier to get to the 3 debuffs always. So I would actually recommend to go for this team rather than the team that I'm using with a Rogue in there. But I would still, as I said, if you have that Deborah, put it over the Miriam. If you have the Brandia, put it over the Crow. And if you have a Chami or a Kamiya or something like that, not a Konamiya, Kamiya, the dark and light version of the Ninetailed Fox, if you do have those, I would recommend to put those in those slots. So that is just about it. Very quick one. It's just like an insane team out there. It's absolutely freaking insane. One thing you have to keep in mind that is pretty important. I'm not sure if Theomars, how is this Theomars looking like? Yeah, Theomars has to be 0 speed. You do want to have 0 speed on Theomars. That is absolutely the way. I do have a video in case that you have a Theomars that is a, what's it called? Because there's certain specific speeds, because the Theomars does get the passive A to B in for pretty much activating his passive. If you do have a Ifrit that is 100 speed, so you have it awakened already and you don't have one that is this way, then you have to be careful that your bail has to be fast enough, otherwise it's not going to work. So you have to keep that in mind. That is something that I have like a fix on that buff for the Theomars that they gave at some point. That is I do have that explained in a different video, so if you're walking into that issue, you can check that for the video down below. Thing that you have to keep in mind with all of this kind of stuff, your Crow has to do enough damage. If your Crow does not do enough damage, this whole thing is gonna fail, because after the Crow, right away, you will have your bill moving, and then things just go really bad. So that's absolutely, there's no room for your Crow not one-shotting. But if you use this with a Brandia, like this Crow was doing like 270k damage, if there is a branding, my Brandia does do like 450k. So that would technically one-shot this whole stupid boss in the first place. But I do think that this is very doable to build. Only big issue is, with all of this, R5 kind of sucks, because the drop table is still like too many different types of things, and we're getting like all kinds of enhance and tolerance and accuracy and guard and energy and endure and blah, 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 all of the kind of stuff that we don't need. So yeah, that is still a thing. I do hope that if they make any change anytime soon, it would be an R6, or it would be a full change to R5, or it would be, if they did the booster event really cool, where rather that they say like, okay, you boost just the Vio, I just want to boost things to not have drop table in them at all. So I want to remove guard and enhance and endure, and just keep like the 10 good sets, and all of the other sets I don't want to get. Would have been really nice if they actually did that for the booster event, but unfortunately they didn't go for that one. So too bad, but still, you do need to farm R5. Everyone does need to farm R5. If you're free to play, you want to do it fast, this is the team I recommend. Guys, thanks a lot for watching, and hope to see you as always in the next one. Thanks for watching. If you would like to see more guides, join the Discord and check out the content tab for the guide video archive, which contains all of the guides that you might need. Hope to see you there.